Right, hello lads and lasses, and welcome back to Boys Down Under, where today we are addressing the rumours of Aaron Mooy to Celtic, with me giving you guys my Aussie take on the lad, seeing as how he does represent the green and gold at national level. Before we get into the video though, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It's free, easy, and it's the best way to help this channel grow. But without further ado, let's get into it. So obviously this all started, way back when Ange was appointed to Celtic Football Club. Literally every single Australian national team footballer who played under him was linked to Celtic. Maybe not every single Australian footballer, but there was the fair majority of it. You had Matty Ryan before he went off to Real Sociedad. Aaron Mooy, he was there for a little while. That kind of died down, but now it has been resurrected. And according to fresh reports from the Daily Mail, Aaron Mooy, who is currently contracted to Shanghai SIPG or Shanghai Port FC, whatever you want to call them, he is now Ange's #1 target to sign in January. Now, like usual, we're going to be doing the scouting report on Mooy, and luckily, Celtic this time are being linked with someone who I've actually seen play numerous times live. And someone who I've actually got a very good understanding of them as a footballer. And as stated, Mooy, who's currently 31 years old, he used to play, he plays currently for Shanghai SIPG, and he is on a monster contract. He's earning around 60,000 Great British pounds a week. That is humongous. It's humongous. I can't even do the math to calculate how much that is on a yearly basis, but it's a bloody lot, I can tell you that much. Now, he plays as a box-to-box midfielder, but literally, he literally has the capability to play everywhere across the midfield three, so centre mid, centre attacking mid, centre mid, or CDM. And he's very, very good on the dead ball, bit of a set-piece specialist, as I like to call them. Now, the interesting part about Mooy is that he is 31, as I said, and he arrived at Shanghai last year, and he kind of arrived at, the peak of his powers. And what I mean by that is he left the Premier League to go play in the Chinese league. Now, it caught everyone at Brighton, where he was at formerly, everyone in the Premier League, and then everyone in Australia, by complete surprise. Literally, I don't think anyone expected that deal to happen at all. There was not a single rumor about that happened at all. It was just Shanghai activated his release clause and he was off straight away. It was weird. But apparently now, only being a year and a half into a four-year deal for the club, he wants out, or well, as the reports are stating, Ange wants him at Celtic. Now, looking at the stats, since his arrival in Shanghai, Mooy has played very few games. He's been there for a year, just over a year now, and he's played only 22 games for the Chinese outfit. He's only got as well 2 goals and 3 assists in those 22 games. So he's playing very, very few games, but we got to remember he's a centre mid, so he's not always going to be up there, scoring or assisting the goals. He's going to kind of be a bit further back, and he's going to be the player to create the magic rather than. He's going to kick off the magic rather than create it, if that makes any sense. Now, that leads me into him as a player, because obviously, with these sort of centre mid, CDMs and centre backs, those sort of further down the pitch, positions, the stats aren't really, very indicative of how well the player plays, because it doesn't really provide a real depth of them as a footballer. But during his prime years of 2016 to 2020, Aaron Mooy was an absolute gun for Australia. Not only for Australia, and not only even in the Prem, he was just a gun in general. He was in the peak of his powers, his prime footballing years at Brighton, Huddersfield, and playing for Australia. He was absolutely a gun for Australia. He was one of our best players during that whole period of when Ange was coaching him. And, at the World Cup in 2018, Australia were in a group with France, Denmark, Peru, all 3 teams who are levels above Celtic. I mean, it's not Celtic, Australia. And, in each of those games, Australia never held the majority of possession. We never really got too much of the ball. It was more, we had to sit back, we had to defend, because, France, they just threw everything at us. And eventually they got the win, but still, he every time Mooy got the ball, he was looking up, he was ready, he already knew where his next pass was going to be. He tried taking the game to these very dominant national teams, and Australia, we got one draw out of the 3 matches. It was what we expected, but Mooy was certainly a shining light in that tournament, and I think it really showed his class as a footballer, especially coming up against those, really good national teams. Like, France were the eventual winners of that World Cup. Like, give Australia a harder game, for Christ's sake. And look, I think the best thing is that he loves Ange, he loves the way Ange plays. There's an interview back when, he was being coached by Ange in the national team, 2016 maybe. My memory's failing me, but he's just raving on about how much he loves the way Ange plays his football and how he loves being coached by him. And I could certainly say, if you offered him the chance to be coached by Ange again, I honestly reckon Aaron Mooy would take that without a doubt, because he's got a lot of class about him. And I think the best thing about a move to Celtic for him would be, for the club, would be that he gets to provide a mentorship role towards David Turnbull, because despite Turnbull's age, despite Turnbull's maturity levels, he's still a young'un. He's still extremely young. He's still got a lot of developing to do. And his body isn't fully developed. He's played every game for Celtic so far this season. He's going to need respite, but he's also going to need someone to help him get through these very challenging years on his body, so he can time load manage and stuff like that. And I think Mooy would provide an excellent job for that role. And I think that might be, if there's any truth to these rumors, might be what Ange sees in it as well. Because look, honestly, if Mooy came to the club, I don't think he'd be a star. He'd certainly be pushing and demanding a starting role. Would he get it under the form the midfield's currently in? Maybe not, but he certainly would be able to provide respite for someone like David Turnbull. But of course, with the positives always comes the negatives, and the first negative is money. Money, because as we know, in literally every single sport nowadays, cash is king. And as stated earlier, Mooy is earning 60,000 Great British pounds a week in China. The highest earning Celtic player currently, according to salarysport.com, is Callum McGregor. McGregor is on £30,000 a week, half of Mooy's salary. And Celtic obviously would not be able to match that amount of money. So if Mooy were to come to Celtic, he would have to be certainly accepting a hefty wage cut. I don't think he'd even be on par with Callum McGregor. He'd probably earn maybe 20k a season. So that's a third of what he's earning at Shanghai at the moment. And the second part of the deal is that Celtic would have to cough up a bit of cash to acquire his services. Because currently, as I said earlier, Mooy has got 2.5 years left on his contract. And we're going to have to pay up if we want him, obviously. And I think Transfer Market have him valued at around 6.3 million Great British pounds. So if we're gonna make a play for Mooy, we're gonna have to be going upwards of that 6 mil mark if we want to get his services in January. And so that is a hefty fee for someone who is on the wrong side of 30. And that leads me into the next point, and he's 31 years old. And there's an argument against this, which I'll touch over, but in the most physically demanding position on the pitch, being at the age of 31, your body's going to start slowing down. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, but he was in China for the last 2 years. China in its own right is still a competitive league. It may not be as competitive as, say, the Premier League, but still, you're going to have to work hard to get results in that league. And look, in Ange's system, he's going to be running up the pitch, up and down, pressing, marking, doing all the playmaking. Is that centre mid role is so crucial in Ange Postecoglou's philosophy. Does Mooy have it in the tank to be able to play a full 90 minutes week in, week out? I don't think so. But I think as a role, as a mentor to David Turnbull and, playing the odd couple of games coming on as a sub, I think he's perfect for that role. But can Celtic justify paying upwards of £6 million for someone who's just going to provide a mentor role and sort of a respite role, like a sporadic, a rotational role in the squad? Can we justify £6 million? Of course not. There's no way Celtic could justify paying that much for Aaron Mooy. And look, I think if Celtic were to pay, maybe 4 million. I think that's where my benchmark would be. I think £4 million is a great, sort of max fee I would pay for Aaron Mooy, purely, and that's purely me saying it because I have, a place for Aaron Mooy in my heart because I'm an Aussie. For you Scots and up there, like, you probably don't care about him because, like, well, you would care about him because, but what I'm saying is that you don't have that attachment to him as I would as an Aussie. And you'd say £4 million for someone like him, that's still a rip-off. And it's fair enough because he is on the wrong side of 30. And how many more years can we get out of him as a proper dominant force in the league, in one of the most demanding positions on the football field, in one of the most demanding footballing philosophies, which is Ange Postecoglou's. But I think where all these rumours have came from is his family. He's got his wife is Scottish. He met her in the time he had at St. Mirren. But the thing is, when he signed for Shanghai, his wife and kids didn't move with him. So that's an indicator that he was never going to end his career there and settle down there. Don't know why he would, but he's going to return to his family. I don't know where they live at the moment. That would be very creepy if I did. I'm not sure if they're in England, Scotland, or Australia. I assume it's one of them three, but I think certainly he wants to settle down coming into the latter part of his career with his family because he has 2 kids to look after, of course, and he can't leave that up to his wife alone. Look, maybe that's just where the rumours came from. Maybe there's no truth in the rumours at all, but if there is truth, like I said earlier, I'd say a maximum of £4 million for Aaron Mooy. I would consider that an okay deal. You guys probably disagree. You guys would probably say £3 million. Just because of his age factor, but I can assure you, he still is a class footballer, and I think the argument runs true that because the amount of football he's played over the last 2 years, it's been very limited. His body may have not taken those extra years off his body as it would have if he played, in the Premier League for the last 2 years. So it's very, very interesting to see where these rumours go, but I'm not sure about it. So let me hear what you guys think. What do you guys think about Aaron Mooy to Celtic Football Club? He's an Aussie. Can't go wrong with the Aussies. I can guarantee you that much. Do I think he's the best Aussie we could sign? Of course not. Do I think he would certainly offer something for this team? 100%. But we'll have to wait and see. So remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel. But that is all from me. So until next time, hail, hail.